trying to straighten it all out now on the Comcast Business Hotline. Good friend of the program, good friend of mine, Rick Morris from the FantasyHelpDraftLine.com. He's on 97.5 The Fanatic right now. What's up, Rick? How you doing, my friend?
Joe, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on. And again, of the many shows that I'm a completist of, one of them is Sunny. I always like to imagine the gang sitting around Patty's Pub listening to us on a ghetto blaster. So shout out to Charlie Mack and company.
All right. I love it, man. I love it. Rick Morris from the FDHLounge.com. Want to talk a little bit about these guys who are about to be instant millionaires on Thursday night, Rick. The talk of the town right now is a potential trade with the Celtics, Sixers and Celtics, for Markelle Fultz. Josh Jackson appears to be locked in, apparently, if you believe what we're reading, to the Lakers, where the Sixers certainly could do themselves some good things by going up to get Markelle Fultz, while the Celtics, they don't seem to be locked into, if you believe Adrian Wojnarowski and his reporting, that they don't seem to be locked into anyone, so it would make sense for both teams. Markelle Fultz driving up from Maryland right now to meet with the Sixers at 6 o'clock. Your overall thoughts on this deal for both teams from both sides?
Well, I concur with what you've been saying. I think that, again, Markelle Fultz, if you just look at it, the consensus number one player and the consensus number one draft since 2003. So I think it makes an awful lot of sense. A real James Harden-esque type combo guard there, somebody who can fit in there, and it'll be interesting to see how he meshes with the 76ers. You and I touched on this briefly previously on your show in terms of him and Ben Simmons. Both of them are kind of ball dependent, but the fact that Fultz can play off the ball a little bit should probably be helpful also. But I think it makes an awful lot of sense, and I agree with what you're saying there. I mean, there's the possibility, too. We'd heard this, and this is a dated rumor. If they traded back from 3, get the 5 and the 10 from Sacramento, in a perfect world, you get Jonathan Isaac and Dennis Smith. And on my FantasyDraftHelp.com draft board, I've actually got them 3 and 4 overall. I'm a little bit outside the consensus on those two. I love those two guys. You could potentially get them at 5 and 10, but it's a gamble. And Fultz is a sure thing, I think.
You think he's a sure thing because not too often do you talk about sure things and locks and whatnot. I don't ever believe in saying this guy's a lock, but why do you think he's a sure thing?
In terms of the way that his game translates to the NBA, he's got a good head on his shoulders, so he's not going to self-destruct. It seems like some of these guys you never know until they get to the league, but he's probably going to hold up pretty good in that regard. And his game is just so polished. You watch a lot of the tapes on him and the stuff that he's been able to do. And again, I see the James Harden comparisons that a lot of people are making. James Harden is a top 5 consensus player in this league. I'm not saying that's what you get with Fultz right off the bat. With any of these one-and-dones, it's probably going to take a little bit of work, and probably more than that with a very young roster like Philadelphia. But I just broadly speaking, I would say I agree with what you've been saying about him. I think it's a no-brainer to do this. It's not a very oppressive price. And I got to think, if you go back to the 80s and the rivalry in that town, it's going to be doubly sweet to pick the Celtics pocket the way that you guys look like you're going to do.
Well, that would certainly work around here. I don't know if you've been watching the 30 for 30 Lakers and Celtics. They didn't mention the Sixers too often, but the Sixers were always in the mix, and the Celtics certainly, you want to talk about the Boston Strangler, they certainly were the Philadelphia Stranglers, knocked us out of a few conference finals en route to the finals and doing their battle with the Lakers and whatnot. We're speaking with Rick Morris on the FDH Lounge, from the FDHLounge.com. Rick, if the Markelle Fultz deal falls through, who's the second best fit for the Sixers, in your opinion?
That goes to, again, and I have a little bit of a question in my own mind because I can tell you I always rely very much on their very great depth charts that CBS Sports has. They list Ben Simmons presently as a point guard, but if you click on his individual profile, it shows him at small forward. So there's no real great sense necessarily, I think, and they're holding the cards pretty close to the vest here. Ben Simmons is the determinant of where they go with this, how they see him fitting in. So if it's not Markelle Fultz, again, Jonathan Isaac would be seen as a little bit of a reach, but probably not that big of a reach. Dennis Smith would be seen as a decent-sized reach. I think you could trade back a little bit to get him. So that's the direction that I'd be looking in, actually, because I think Lonzo Ball probably will end up going at 2. And as badly as he wants to go to L.A., and as much as his old man could be a headache, forcing him into that situation in Philly could be nitroglycerin, I think. So I'd be looking for a way. I would say probably Jonathan Isaac. I have him as the third best player in the draft. Taking him at 3, I think that's a big win right there because I think there's a lot of Garnett to his game, Durant to his game, as a very tall forward who's kind of a combo guy at this point because of his body type. Jonathan Isaac would be a real steal, assuming that it's not going to clash too much with what's already on the roster with the forwards that you have. That's a scenario where Simmons is probably playing more pure point guard.
You're not the first expert to mention Jonathan Isaac in that slot, so we're hearing a lot of good things about Jonathan Isaac and who the best fit is for the 76ers if they should not land Markelle Fultz in that number 1 pick from the Celtics. Rick, no matter who the Sixers draft at number 3 or number 1, or if they trade back to 5, you're going to get an NBA rookie playing alongside Ben Simmons, who's going to be an NBA rookie, possibly Joel Embiid, who's only played 31 games in the league. How far away do you think the Sixers are from making an impact in this league, and how long do you think that will take to gel, if you want to call this the JV of the Big Three with the Sixers team, this nucleus?
I think, frankly, as pathetic as the Eastern Conference is, I think there's a decent chance, certainly not in year 1, but by year 2, and that's if, again, the fact that the Colangelos have a different philosophy than essentially trust the process. And I think in all fairness that even the trust the process stuff would have ended right about right now. You have to start getting some veteran guys in there to augment as well. I trust that is going to be the case. Not going to make the playoffs this year, but I'll tell you what, year 2, if they snuck in as the 8th seed, it would not shock me. It absolutely wouldn't. Because there's a scenario where this team could win in the mid to high 30s by year 2, and that'd be enough, probably.
How about the Celtics? Because the Sixers are playing for the future, obviously. The Celtics, number 1 seed in the East, the de facto number 1 seed in the East. They lost to the Cavaliers by an average of 20 points per game. Your Cavaliers, by the way. How far away are the Celtics from vying for the top spot in the Eastern Conference to surpass the Cavaliers?
I think it's a pretty decent gap, and I think that's probably informing a little bit of what they're doing here. Now, the thought was they were going to take Fultz there, live with whatever logjam that causes you in the backcourt, and then try to go sign Gordon Hayward, who, that's a guy based on his, shall we say, overall profile, was more born to play in Boston than anybody I've ever seen. So they must be thinking at this point maybe that might not happen. Whatever kind of early rumors there might have been on Hayward coming there, maybe they're sort of hearing some different kind of things, and maybe that's why they're looking to take Josh Jackson potentially. The smart thing on their part is if they're going to take Josh Jackson, if they're going to take somebody other than Fultz, you got to trade out of that spot. You have to at least exploit the value there. There's no value in reaching past the best player in this draft.
No, I agree. Rick Morris, I appreciate your time as always. Great insight as well, and we'll certainly look forward to you on the FantasyDraftHelp.com, FantasyDraftHelpLounge.com website, and you have so much great insight and you have so much knowledge, and I appreciate you bringing it to the show when you do. You have a great weekend, my friend. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you so much, Joe. And we're going to have our guide up on FantasyDraftHelp.com Monday for the NBA draft for this year. You can check it all out there.
Will do. And I appreciate it, Rick. And we'll do it on his Twitter handle. It's at the FDH Lounge. You can talk to Rick Morris and find out more about his fantasy draft and where the players rank. In his opinion, he's always great for some good knowledge, some good information. Always appreciate him coming on the show to talk basketball, to talk LeBron. He's a big LeBron fan. He's from Cleveland, so he's smarting a little bit still after that 5-game sweep, if you will, at the hands of the Golden State Warriors.